All right. 5 Arsenal players have been shortlisted and they're up for sale. Welcome to the Rokani Media Football. How are you guys and where are you watching us from? I go by the names of Rokani David. Smash the like button, comment and share. If at all you're watching us for the very first time, endeavor to subscribe to this channel so as not miss out on stories that we do upload in here on a daily. Rokani David is my name and we're here to see to it that we really bring you the best of the best from where you guys are now. Arsenal are one of those teams that are really looking to obviously get in world-class players because where they are right now, they need to elevate from the Arsenal they've been to the Arsenal they are supposed to be. And how do you elevate from the Arsenal you've been, from the Arsenal you are supposed to be? First and foremost, you need to obviously come up and really understand what you are supposed to do. And what are you supposed to be doing? Obviously, get out players and bring in players. Arsenal went ahead to spend close to £280 million in the summer transfer window of 2025, meaning that they really spent a lot, close to £300 million. And when you look at the players they're really looking at to bring in from the club of Arsenal, they need to spend huge and they will need close to £300 million to spend if they are to strengthen their team to obviously reach those levels of teams like PSG, Man City, Bayern Munich, name it. So, a story has been put out by Telegraph Football about Arsenal and who they are willing to obviously sell to obviously have money to spend. Remember, they are supposed to sell and get in money. After getting in money, they are supposed to obviously get that money and add it onto that available to spend in order not to breach the financial fair play rule. That is the transfer. Is it called the PFA? You know, the player that is it? It's called the financial fair play, FPA, in there for you. So that applies a lot in transfers. Now, what have Arsenal gone ahead to come up with their resolution? Now, 5 Arsenal players have been touted for potential departures this summer in order to fund the signing of Atletico Madrid and Atletico striker Julian Alvarez. Now, the list has Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, Ben White, Gabriel Martinelli, and Gabriel Jesus. Now, surprisingly, these two, I'm talking about Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri. When you look at Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think he's the most looked at. And when you see a club like Man United showing huge interest in this player, do you know what it means? It really speaks volumes that this player is needed hugely and teams are willing to obviously spend big to see to it that all goes on well as planned in there for you. So, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Man United raising up their hand to sign the player, and Arsenal are looking at £50 million for this player. And what the manager did over the weekend, he went ahead to play him in his favorite position. Remember, he was a midfielder before he was being switched to play as a left back, And he looked good when Arsenal was playing against a team known as Newcastle. And some people thought that maybe Arsenal might rethink of really selling him and offload Nogard and get him and use him into that position. Something that I think doesn't work for Arsenal. They need to get in players like the Sandro Tonalis of this world. So, as it stands, the club of Arsenal wants to sell Lewis-Skelly for £50 million. And I think they can get it because he's a homegrown player and he's still young, age is still on his side. And £50 million, I think, won't be bad for the club of Man United. At my channel, known as the United Matters channel, I've always gone ahead to let you know that at any point, I let this guy go. sorry, I let this guy come in through at the club of Man United because he's a multifunctional player. Left back, can play as a central midfielder, and he can also play forward. So this guy is really great. So that's why I really love him, and I can recommend him at any day to come in through and obviously do this for the club of Man United in there for you. So if they can get 50 from him, it's really very good because he's what we call a homegrown player. You understand? So if he's a homegrown player, I tell you, he commands a lot of what we call, he commands a lot of respect, and that is a pure profit for the club of Arsenal. And that will mean a lot in them getting him where he wants to be. So after that, we've seen Ethan Nwaneri. Now, he's one of the talents that the world is looking at, and they're also looking at 50 million pounds for Ethan Nwaneri. Going in at Marseille, having a very good season, not until the manager went ahead to obviously get sacked who brought him at Marseille. That is De Zerbi. And now, as things stand, he's set to return to Arsenal, and Arsenal we are going to offload him, but they're looking at 50 million pounds again, meaning that that will be 100 million pounds for a player like him, because we've seen teams sign players like Carl Palmer, who hadn't obviously gone ahead to show their potential to the levels of Ethan Nwaneri. You understand? And now he's tied to a 5-year contract at Arsenal, and teams will have to obviously pay 50 million pounds. And if they ever offload those two and they happen to get in 100 million pounds of what we call pure profit, only that amount of money can help them really sign in Julian Alvarez and very many other players they need to bring in this. Because if Julian Alvarez is for 120 million pounds, that means they can pay like 10 for starters. And because it's being broken down, so in quarters until the contract of the player expires, and that's how things really pan out. So I want to let you know that this side of Arsenal are really in big things, if at all the permutations of the transfers go on well as planned. From there, we obviously head to Gabriel Martinelli. He's another player that they want to sell for 40 to 50 million pounds, and he's having a very beautiful season at Arsenal. And I think teams will be willing to obviously offer that amount of money. You get? And they haven't obviously gone ahead to show any signs of Arsenal awarding him a new contract. But we're waiting to see how things will obviously pan out for the club of Arsenal and the player on their plan to see to it that they really see this player obviously do the needful. But for Gabriel Martinelli, I think clubs will show interest in him. I've gone ahead to even see Bayern Munich raising up their hand because they believe that Luis Diaz is a direct player. They need another direct player in his aspect or in his form that he is Martinelli. Though for Luis Diaz, I think his skill set is better than that of Martinelli. If you see things he does on the field of play, that ball control he does for the 4th goal he scores for Bayern Munich away in Paris, and the way he really went ahead to cause out of trouble to the teams he really plays against. The guy is really special. So that is the third one. 4th player is Gabriel Jesus. With Arsenal thinking of bringing in Julian Alvarez, then they should obviously find themselves in a position of allowing him to do the needful and really put out a very huge goal in there for you. So for my case, I really believe it's really very important for a side known as Arsenal to obviously offload Gabriel Jesus, because he's a good player, but they're underutilizing him and they're paying him a lot of money. So that's why I think it's a good idea for them to offload Gabriel Jesus and really bring in Julian Alvarez. Now, lastly, Ben White. One of those players that I thought was even going to be leaving last summer, but they kept him around. But keeping him around, for me, doesn't guarantee him that he's going to stay. And they feel like he should leave. He came in through in the summer of 2021 for the club of Arsenal from Brighton, £50 million. I think by then he was the most expensive player next to Pepe that Arsenal had ever gone ahead to sign, and was the first expensive player under the regime or era of Mikel Arteta. That is it. So, putting him on the list and them wanting him out, for me, doesn't surprise me. And remember what he did yesterday? I think his mind is out there of Arsenal. So, they need another right back. So, that means if you offload Ethan Nwaneri, you won't need to bring in another player to play in the midfield because you have Ebelechi Eze and Ebelechi Eze and Odegaard. You offload Ben White, that means you're bringing in one right back. As you are left with only one player called Julian Timber, who is reliable in that position. And you saw that position disturbed them a lot, when they're playing against Atletico Madrid and the likes of Man City. Thirdly, if you offload Jesus, then you bring in Julian Alvarez. You need a second striker. You offload Martinelli, you bring in a left forward. Meaning that out of the players they are offloading, they need to bring in more 3 or 4 or 5. And it's anticipated that it might be one of those summers where Arsenal will also spend big on big quality players. So thank you guys for watching through. I call upon for your reactions in the comment section below. Rokani David remains my name. I'm out.